A little responsibility really does go a long way. This talk with Ron Motter delves into the exciting realm of the online sustainable and responsible travel world. Planeta was the first website dedicated to eco-travel and has been a resource for travelers ever since. We'll learn what inspired Ron to create Planeta and to get so involved in the industry. We'll learn his travel tips and tricks, and we'll even learn how to stay involved after the trip is over. Ron Motter is one of the pioneers on the web, making the most of online communication and collaboration among colleagues around the world. He launched Planeta.com in 1994 as the web's first website focusing on ecotourism, responsible travel, and conscious travel. Ron is the catalyst behind Planeta's online events such as Responsible Travel Week, which takes place in February, and Indigenous Peoples Week in August. Ron is a self-described superfan of local events around the globe and is happy to amplify coverage through his website. We have Ron Motter here from Planeta, and we'll be talking about responsible travel today and what that means and how we can travel responsibly when we're abroad and also when we get back home.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to a fine conversation.
Excellent, wonderful. We just want to make sure that everything is good. Okay, so I'd like to start from the beginning with responsible travel and your relationship with responsible travel. How do you define it, and how did you initially get involved?
Well, Claire and Chris, thank you so much for the kind invitation, and it is a privilege to be participating in an online travel summit. I'd love to see more of these online conferences. It seems that too often we're jetting across the world to talk about eco-efficiency. And while, face-to-face travel is wonderful, I think it's great to have some of these virtual communication channels. So how did I get involved with all of this? Back with Planeta, it's a story that goes back to 1994. When the web first opened up to the then amazing Gopher sites, and created a journal called Planeta, and started focusing on environmental issues in travel, particularly in Latin America. Planeta is the Spanish word for planet. So I created Planeta.com to be a kind of a bilingual and multilingual source of information, and very quickly it became quite popular among a diverse group of people from Asia, from Australia, from Europe, from North America, from South America, from Africa, and connecting with a lot of people from disparate areas around the world who were interested in this notion. We were calling it all sorts of things, from responsible travel to ecotourism to conscious travel. A little bit hesitant, and we'll get into this later, a little bit hesitant about the whole sustainable travel moniker, but it doesn't matter. We're all going to dislike and like certain terms. The question is, what are the core values? And for me, the value was broadening and deepening our interest in local issues around the world. So that's how Planeta started as this electronic site. Became a full-fledged website in 1995, hosted online conferences since the year 2000, participating in the print media in the Dead Tree world as a correspondent with Transitions Abroad, publishing with, John Muir Publications 10 years ago, wrote the Mexico Guidebook on Adventures in Nature, and again, trying to really use both worlds of our media in terms of print as well as digital. And so that's the story of that. Going back further, my parents were school teachers, and every summer we had great summer vacation time and traversed the United States in our motorhome and visited the beautiful national parks, visited the Indian reservations, visited the powwows, visited the antique stores, visited so many wonderful markets and restaurants around the country, and again, trying to get into what was local. So all of this is kind of embedded in the work that I do and the interest that I have and the travels that that I continue to make today.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that story with us. So you kind of got into a little bit there the difference between responsible travel, sustainable travel, and there have been a ton of terms that have popped up throughout the years. You know, ecotourism, eco travel, responsible travel, sustainable travel, community-based travel. I mean, so many different terms. Could you explain a little bit more about what you mean with those differences?
I'll go into it a little bit, and as I say, it's not for me to be so defensive about the terms, or to be critical of other people. But I think you have to own them. What do you call ecotourism? And back when I was doing the Mexico book, people would say, well, what is this ecotourism? And I would say, well, it has to be community-based. It has to benefit the community. It has to protect the environment. It has to be some sort of a tourism business. It has to make some money. What do you call an ecotourism business that doesn't make money? You call it an ex-ecotourism business. And that word always that word always kind of jived with me. I did a master's thesis on ecotourism in Costa Rica back in 89, 88, 89, and that word made sense to me. A lot of people it doesn't make sense to, because quite frequently in Africa, it was basically about disempowering people, taking land away from locals, particularly indigenous people, and letting very wealthy foreigners come see the safari. And that word kind of got a negative connotation. And fine, I can understand the reasons therefore, but it's not the ecotourism that I would call it. The other words, responsible travel, seems to be a more universally accepted term, but usually it's kind of, it tends towards responsible travel outside of one's country or local area. We don't talk about responsible travel in our neighborhood, where I think we should. And I think we should be insisting that any of these terms should apply equally to Malawi as well as Miami or Las Vegas or wherever you are. Those are those terms. When we get into sustainable travel, it's the International Year of Sustainable Tourism. But again, the question is, well, what is that? And can you really show me sustainable tourism? And for anything to be sustainable, it really has to endure the test of time. And frankly, these things have not endured the test of time. And we're seeing other, conundrums emerge, for example, in terms of the emissions generated by long-haul aircraft. And those are issues that, again, one would really question, can we really call this sustainable? I'm not going to be too much of a nitpicker in terms of this. What I'd like to know is, what are the efforts? What are the benefits? And particularly in 2017 is also the year of open. How open and transparent are the organizers of these tourism projects? Because we have a lot of wonderful mega projects out there, but they're really not that transparent, and they're not really that locally engaged. And again, how can we really call this eco or sustainable or responsible? And again, it's going to be a case-by-case basis. And I'm not going to be a perfectionist on this, but I think we should be, moving the bar forward in terms of all of our travel and tourism.
Right. Okay. Very interesting. I would like to focus back in on Planeta, and if I remember correctly, it was founded in 1994. First came online, right?
That's right.
And so I'd like to talk a little bit more about we talked a little bit earlier about what inspired it, but what's sprung up with it since then? I know you've organized several events and helped spread the word about responsible travel, and so I'm kind of interested to learn a little bit more about its platform.
Well, it's grown exponentially. It's like any evolutionary process. There are things that have gone down the track which have been tremendously successful. There have been other initiatives that really have not been that well received. And I find it interesting to examine and figure out, well, how can we make things better? Again, from what I've said before, what what matters most to me is having some involvement and engagement from people, and that's really difficult, particularly when you're writing about other places, because people are either going to presume that you're this expert and you know more than them, and then they're going to be surprised when you frankly don't. Now, again, I'm born in Indiana. I've lived in Mexico for more than 10 years, and I know a lot about Mexico. At the same point, any Mexican will know so much more than I do and understand so much more than I do about local culture. And so the question is, how do you invite people to participate and also say, I'm interested, but I'm not the expert. So I am very much open to some suggestions and some corrections in relaying and writing about tourism and travel. And it's hard. Frankly, it's hard because, again, people presume that you're going to be this expert. Now, the areas, for example, that I find fascinating are the Copper Canyon, Baja California, the Yucatan Peninsula. Each of those places in Mexico have great tourism stories and wonderful opportunities. At the same point, they also have quite a bit of contention. In other words, things are not perfect, and there is quite a bit of strife in each of those areas for different reasons. And the question is, well, how do you relay this information to both the general public, who, again, may not know where Mexico is, and another screen just opened up. Thank you, Yahoo. But the second is, how do you relay that to the locals? And again, who may have one particular way of seeing things. And that's really the difficult part. Now, saying that, getting back to what Planet is, we've created a zillion pages online, and in the past 2 years have taken it off of a platform which is using BB Edit and Dreamweaver, the classics, and putting it onto the WordPress platform. And again, being able to tag, being able to allow comments on individual articles, that's opening up Planet in a whole other direction. Beyond that, beyond what I do on the portal that I maintain, in the past 10 years, I've been a strong proponent of using what we call the social media and social web. In other words, making sure that people are, and that I'm using Facebook and Twitter and whatnot. Now, you can't use everything, and you can have certain biases and prejudices. Like, I don't like Twitter, or I don't like this or that. Well, fine. But are you trying to use some of these? And are we going to learn how they work? Because what's been strange, if we look at the world before the 90s, people would write a book or write a magazine article. Maybe if they're a guidebook writer, they'd get the permission to rewrite it or edit it. There would be a new edition every 2 years. Thank you, Lonely Planet. But online, you can make the addition, you can make that change immediately. And that's been this very big change for everyone to be concerned with. Now, as an online publisher, what I found interesting was that when you're writing about a crisis or crises, you are very quick to gain some enmity with officials and tourism people because you're writing about the hurricane, or you're writing about the earthquake, or you're again showing pictures of distress. But you have, as an online publisher, again in this 20th, 21st century, we can update this. It's not as if the community is stranded in this earthquake forever. We can show, here's the situation, which, again, travelers need to know. Can I go there? Should I go there? Will there be food? And second, afterwards, well, what's the success story? How did you overcome these problems? And when there is an earthquake, and I'm thinking, the northern coast, Pacific coast of Ecuador that suffered various earthquakes over the past few years on the northern coast. How do you send people over there once the crisis, is over, and they need and they want tourism to come back?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's
Sorry, I'm echoing just a little bit. So that is something that we're going to be talking about tomorrow as well. We have a panel with Michael Becker from GeoSure and Sophia Heider from Papelia. And, a lot of these places, they do get hit with natural disasters, and people aren't really sure, when can I start traveling again? Is it safe? Is it really a good idea for us to go back? And like you said, so many communities need that money coming from travelers and from tourists, and they need that to rebuild their infrastructure. And so, we'll definitely get into more of that tomorrow. But kind of going back to Papelia and coming up with platforms to reach travelers, to inform them minute by minute sometimes. And, social media has been such a huge catalyst with that. I'm wondering, you've created some of these wonderful events, like the Responsible Travel Week. And I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more about those and how they have informed the travel community.
Well, I'm very happy to say that, and Claire, thank you for taking part in Responsible Travel Week this year. What I've learned, again, doing online conferences for the past 17 years, we've done conferences focusing on regions, North America, South America, Africa. We've done ecotourism challenges for Australia and New Zealand. But what was interesting was that, again, it was a matter of raising this digital literacy and awareness of people. And can you communicate in real time or in near real time during this constrained, week-long conversation or whatever the format is? And again, that still is this challenge that continues. But focusing more and more on responsible travel, we did various fairs in Oaxaca, and we created kind of this tie-in to these online, basically a week-long conversation. And now the current way that I hold the online conference is to have Responsible Travel Week in February and co-host Indigenous Peoples Week in August. Both of those formats are a Monday to Sunday conference, asking for people to register, asking people to use the different social platforms. In other words, not just to, again, send email back and forth to people, but to use Twitter for the first time or use Facebook for the first time, and getting people to learn how to, learn how to use those resources, and really reaching out to the mom and pop operations, or to there are always those idealist government regulators or government officials who, see, hey, we could do ecotourism, or hey, it's not just sun and beach. We could have the promotion of our local culture in a responsible way. But again, how do you get the word out? And also, if you're talking about Latin America or other countries around the world, is there anyone writing about some of this in English or other languages? Are we going to appeal to people in various languages? Great examples are the national parks in the U.S., where Grand Canyon National Park has its visitor information online and in print, in 8 different languages. In other words, we're really sending out the information that, visitors are welcome. Living in Mexico, the information would be in Spanish, and the signs directing you to the eco cabin or the lodge would be at the lodge itself. Again, how do I get there? It's this crapshoot. I can say that. I live in Las Vegas. It's this crapshoot of actually getting visitors to come where you are. So that's been the focus the past few years, focusing again on responsible travel, using the month of February, particularly Valentine's Day, saying, hey, why not fall in love with responsible travel? And that's been pretty successful. And we've had good conversations with that. But as I say, it is intended and geared as a learning experience to get people who are doing the work comfortable enough so that they can communicate. What I like saying is, talking their walk.
Mm-hmm.
because far too many of these people have great ideas and they're eco-conscious and social conscious, but they forget to let other people know.
Nice. I love that. Talking their walk. I feel like not enough of us do that. It's just walking the path to begin with. But then, like you said, sharing what we're doing, trying to inspire. And like you said, there's so many amazing people out there and communities out there that we have no idea what they're doing, and they would love to have visitors, but it is very hard to get across that idea. So today we've seen lots of interviews and a panel kind of talking about how travelers can make a difference when they're traveling, when they're in the moment and the planning process. But I would really be interested to hear from you what travelers can do when they get home and how they can continue that process, that traveling responsibly model.
Thank you. A lot of people, for various reasons, are not that keen on Facebooking and Instagramming and tweeting their experiences as they live them. And all power, that's fine. The question is, after your travel, again, can you go back and find the Eco Lodge on Facebook, or can you post a photo and again attribute, give credit to these individuals or this place? Far too often, again, using the Mexico example, there would be postcards or magazine articles showing market women. And, again, how awful it is when the core of responsible travel is reduced to anonymous indigenous figure. And don't get me wrong, I'm not taking my pen and paper and asking everyone I meet their name, but I try as often as I can. And when I can interact with someone and I'm at local market, if it's in Henderson, Nevada, it's saying hi to, Sharon and Dick who make the handmade wooden pencils, or if I'm in Oaxaca, Mexico, it's, saying thanks to Rodrigo and Gracia for selling the Mije ceramics, and Rebosos or Angela with her Zapotec delights, on and on. But to give them a name and to say, hey, here you are. And if you're lucky enough to have these friends, they're friends on Facebook. Now, if you're barreling across the world, I'm not expecting you to make 100 friends everywhere, but when you have the opportunity to stick around in a place and you get to know people, again, I think the social web channels, and particularly Facebook, is a great way of just saying, hey, with you in spirit, thank you so much for sharing, and if I can direct other people's attention, hey, go to this place. And for those that know me, I lived more than 10 years in Oaxaca. The markets that the organic and natural markets that I befriended and befriended me, they had their own pages on Facebook. Why not, again, share some of those photos, their photos? It's not just me and my gringo experience, which I'm delighted to have, but it's other people's experiences. And that, again, if you're sharing, that can be from the time you were there to later on when you're home, or it can be years later. Are you going to pay attention to the places that you've been? And can you pay attention in this very positive and proactive manner?
And I would imagine from maybe their perspective, if you are doing a Facebook post or a tweet and you say their name and you say, hey, I had such an amazing time at, Juanita's house, and she was, so kind and had such good food. And, next time you're in Mexico, please come here. I would feel that would be pretty uplifting for me if I was that person, that someone acknowledged enough to share and to encourage other people to have the same experience.
Oh, exactly. And again, let's be realists though as well, because the only drawback to that is that it then encourages a lot of jealousy from the other people. Hey, what about me? You didn't visit my house, or this or this or that. Going back to the beginning of Planeta and Flickr, when Flickr dawned back in 2006, I think, it was wonderful because you could create an archive of photos that then had this random image display. And that was the only way I could get around causing, again, a great deal of jealousy from the people that I was talking about.
Mm.
But yeah, people are going to be appreciated. And again, what is tagging? When you're tagging the person and you do say something, positive about them, yeah, there's a good feeling. And there's a way of interacting. You can say, hey, we changed address, or now we're over here. Because again, when we're talking about the mom and pop operations, there's often a little bit less stability than we'd like. Again, it's the difference between the evergreen model of publication, go here, here, and here, to saying, hey, go track down this guy. He makes great candy, or go track down this person. But you can say, hey, she's going to be at this market this Friday. Go see her then.
Yeah. That's great. I love that. We do have a few minutes left, and I know on Saturday you're going to take us on a bike tour through Vegas, and I would love to hear a little bit more about that and some things to look forward to.
Oh, of course, see más bicicletas. Yes, more bicycles. I think the story of the year for Vegas has to be the bike share program, which is the fundamental way of changing people's perspectives of downtown Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And Las Vegas is well known for the Strip and for so much of its glitz and glamour. At the same point, the historic area has received less people and less attention, and was in a serious case of decline. There have been quite a few disparate efforts to improve things. And in the past year, they've launched this program of bike share, which means there are about a dozen stations scattered throughout the downtown area that have, again, about a dozen or so bikes each that you can check out. $4 a pop, or $8 a day, or $20 a month. Basically limiting people to 30-minute rides or less. Now, I'm new to bike share, so a lot of this is coming to me quite slowly. Like, oh, I can't ride it as long as I want. No, then you're going to be charged an extra $4. Again, fine. Again,
Yeah.
in the scheme of things, fine. But we're learning how these things work. So the idea is Saturday, meet up with people late Saturday morning. Announce this using the Twitter and using the hashtag, and basically conveying to you as well, how does this work, and doing some live video. We'll be directing it through my YouTube channel, and perhaps as well as through Periscope or Facebook Live. We'll see what technology works.
Yeah, we're testing out some new platforms.
We're testing out the platforms, and what we'll show you is the riding itself. But some of the historic buildings, and most impressively, the street art. Again, kudos to Life is Beautiful, the annual music festival. There is so much wonderful street art in Las Vegas that really deserves to be seen, and frankly, won't be seen when it's painted over in a few months or whenever. It's ephemeral art. So, now is the time to go see it. So that's the plan for Saturday. We'll have our informal meetup, get together, go check out some of these places, stream as much as we can, and probably limited little segments.
Mhm.
I'm also kind of expecting the signal to drop out here and there, and fine, that'll happen. But we'll give you a good tour. And again, when folks are in Las Vegas, please consider this. It's a really good initiative, and I think it's a great way of restoring the confidence and the trust of people coming to downtown Las Vegas to really be entertained, and to do so in a responsible, conscious, sustainable manner.
Exactly. That's wonderful. I am so excited. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Ron, for being here. We do unfortunately need to end our wonderful conversation. We've got another session coming up, but it was so wonderful to hear from you.
Oh, back at you, and thank you again for hosting this. I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do in the future.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll see you on Saturday, Ron.
You then.